Hey everybody, it's Dick here. Today I'm riding the Triumph Scrambler 1200 XC version. It's a liquid-cooled 8-valve, single overhead cam, 270-degree crank angle parallel twin engine. It's liquid-cooled. Its 1200cc displacement puts out 89 horsepower at 7,400 RPM. It has 81.1 foot-pounds of torque at 3,950 RPM. It has 4 rider modes with an additional 5th rider configurable mode. It has keyless ignition. It's chain-driven, 6-speed transmission with a wet multi-plate assisted clutch. The Brembo brake on the back wheel is actually the front brake on the Street Scrambler, while on the front you have twin 320mm Brembo M50 4-piston radial monoblock calipers, and ABS is standard. It's got a high 2-to-2 brushed exhaust silencers. It runs tubeless 36-spoke 21-inch aluminum rim wheels on the front with a 32-spoke tubeless 17-inch aluminum rim on the back. The high spec and the attention to detail make this bike a looker and feels a bit like a love child between Triumph's heritage and adventure bike range. Let's get to know this puppy. So I'm stopped on the side of the road here on the XC version of the new Triumph 1200 Scrambler. If I'm trying to put both feet on the ground, I'm on my toes. So it's not higher than my GS, give or take an inch or two. The issue I was having with the high exhaust on the Street Scrambler, I'm not having here. They've kind of tucked it in a little better on this version, so I'm not having that issue on the right side of my foot. Leaning over, I'm on a little bit of an off camber here, but leaning over, I'm flat on the ground there and kind of an extended leg. There's something weird over here. I don't know why this is sticking out. I thought that maybe a twist tie or a zip tie had come loose here, but that seems to be how it's routed, which if you're taking this off-road, which is really what it's designed for, that's going to catch something and break off, and I really am not impressed with the cable routing on that there. Let's take it for a ride and see. Oh, we'll talk about the display. This thing here, this toggle switch, which seems like it's very finicky. I mean, it's already very loose. You can see it wobbling a little bit. That controls this TFT display. I'm impressed with the display a lot. This lever makes it tip fore and aft, so you're not having those reflection issues. There's different screen settings and modes and themes, and there's 4 rider modes on this. I'm in the road mode right now. There's a twisty mode. So there's road, twisty, off-road, rain, and then rider specific. The XE version has off-road pro, and I was talking to the salesman, and he said you could make that rider specific one mirror the off-road pro. So really, you're not getting anything less in terms of rider modes if you know what you want in your riding, if you want to make that specific to your own riding. So I'm very, very impressed with that. I thought I'd be kind of put off by that like I am with most of these heads-up digital TFT displays. I've made it so that I can see the RPM, which interestingly enough Redline is just about 7,000 RPM, and then a digital speed limit. I got time up there. There's a lot of information here, and you can spend a whole video on that. So I'm very impressed with that, suffice it to say. I'm impressed with the TFT display, and the way I've positioned that, I can't see shit with the sun, so I'd have to reposition it. Right off the bat, I'm finding I'm having a reach. My hand isn't big enough to reach where this clutch lever is currently positioned. I think there might be some adjustment there, but right now out of the box, I'm having to reach for that. And if I have my hand out for the clutch, or even here on the handlebar, it's a bit of a reach for my thumb to get to this, even just the turn signal. So I find that I'm disengaging with my hand to come back and reach that. I mean, it's the 1200 engine with the HP, the high power tuning. There's no complaints about the engine. A lot of people were saying that, you know, why would you put this twin on an adventure bike? Because their triples are on their adventure bikes, and that this was kind of like a compromise to try and get the heritage look onto an adventure bike. But really, I actually prefer this engine over their triple for an adventure bike. Their triple is, I think, spooled too high. I mean, it's very road-oriented. So the low down and mid-range torque on that triple, I don't think is appropriate for an adventure bike that's not going to be primarily a road tour with occasional off-roading stuff. So this is very much more appropriate engine, I think, for an adventure bike or an adventure style bike in terms of tuning. So the engine is really punchy. I won't spend too much time on the engine because it's the same engine that's in all of the 1200s, but it is performing as nicely. The gearing seems a bit more industrial than the other Triumphs I've ridden with the 1200. Whoa! That's crazy. When I really hammer on the accelerator, I feel the rear suspension drop and that front wheel and front suspension lift. You can tell there's kind of long travel suspension compared to the road models or the street models. So it really is kind of throwing you back. You're sinking down on those rear shocks and that front end is lifting a bit. The wind is a lot better on this than even on the street Scrambler. It's not throwing my head up. That big display is acting as a good deflector. Like right there's a bubble. And the wind, there's actually more wind coming from under the display than over the top. This reach thing is really a bit of a problem. What's funny is my initial impression is that this bike's a bit unwieldy. It's not the height issue, I don't think, because it's not any taller than my GS, but it feels a dash unwieldy, and I don't know where that's coming from. I'm not seeing a lot. I mean, the distance, the length of the tank is weird, because I don't see a lot of tank in my downward view. I'm seeing just handlebars and display. There's no wheel out in front of me. I can't see the headlight. It feels kind of like infinitely bigger, but it feels like how I felt when I was riding the Grom. I had to look down. To see the bike. So I know there's a lot of bike around me, but I can't, it's counterintuitive. I can't really feel it. It's a nice wide spot to filter, but the balance is nice. It's a little top heavy. I don't know what, I'm blind here. My display is useless in the sun. This thing is quick. The gearing's a lot better than on the Street Scrambler too because, well, it is a 1200. Never mind, no comparison. The seat is hard as shit. It is a wooden plank seat. My display is, I'm blind in my display. I can't see anything on my display right now. The sun is right on it and it's reflecting. And I can't, nope, that's a bad idea. So good thing it's adjustable because it's useless as it is. The turn signal's a bit weird. I'm like I said, I'm disengaging my hand, my palm from the handlebar to reach back there. But this thing, there's really very little movement side to side, so it doesn't really feel like I'm engaging the turn signal. And I'm pushing a little harder than I think it needs to be pushed because I don't know if it's engaged and I don't know how much it's going to allow me to do that. Huh. I'm trying to hug the tank and I can't because the tank's really tall. So I find instead of hugging the tanks with my knees, I'm hugging that high exhaust with the inside of my right calf. And that high exhaust is vibrating like nobody's business. So I'm kind of flaring my knees out a little bit to get away from that high exhaust. That's a bit annoying. The seat is hard as a rock. I'm very uncomfortable on the seat. However, I'm on the highway. I don't know how fast I'm going. 61 miles an hour. And the wind is negligible. This whatever reduced length or whatever length you have in front of you, that display is acting like a little windshield, and I'm really thankful for it. I'm not getting any turbulence. It's a wide handlebar, but it's not giving me the same action or the same twitchiness as I was getting on the Street Scrambler. Oh, I forgot. The Street Scrambler doesn't have 6 gears, so I was sitting in 5th gear going, oh, I guess I'll just sit in 5th gear. This does have 6 gears. I do have to pinch my toe in a little to get that shift lever with my left foot. Huh, interesting. I was in 6th gear and I looked to go to 7th. You probably have a better angle on the display on the video because you're a bit lower down from the camera angle, but the display continues to be unusable. All right, I got a cloud. Thank you, Mr. Cloud. Now I can see my display. 65 miles an hour, 68 miles an hour, 3,800 RPM. Little bit of vibration in the throttle hand. And like I said, against my leg on the exhaust. Can't feel anything in the seat because it's just pounding my asshole. I was told that the XC version, which seemed to me like kind of an in-between between the Street Scrambler, which is definitely road-oriented with off-road accents, and the XE, which is designated as a pure adventure off-road bike, that this was kind of a non-model. It was kind of a compromise model. And I was told that this is better road-oriented. This is more road-oriented than the XE. That's probably saying something. If this is more road-oriented, then the XE probably doesn't belong on the road at all, because this feels very unwieldy. I'm comfortable out here on the highway, and it does not need a windshield at all. One of the big comments I heard was, how can you have an adventure bike? Because that's really what it is. Call it a Scramble all you like, because that's the styling. We don't live in Southern California. We're not going scrambling. We're going touring, everyone, with our off-road bikes and maybe a bit of green laning. So people who live on the island of Great Britain, they're not going scrambling. And so one of the things is, why would you buy a naked touring bike? This is actually fine on the highway. It's not windy at all. It's really, really lovely how little wind is on this thing. Let's see, 3,000 RPMs, 55 miles an hour. I'm going to drop a gear. 55 miles an hour, 3,000 RPMs in fifth gear too. A little bit of vibration in the right foot peg. I don't know why it's right bias. I'm not really experiencing on my left, unless I've had a stroke. Fully adjustable. There's fully adjustable forks. There's fully adjustable Öhlins gas and coil shocks. So shouldn't complain all that much, but seat is so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. It's a loud motorcycle. I don't know if you can hear it. I mean, obviously the exhaust is higher up, it's closer to my ears, but it's a loud motorcycle. Getting some vibration in my hands at fifth gear, 60 miles an hour, 3,300 RPM. There is a weird kind of baby rattle sound, like a high baby rattle sound. I don't know where that's coming from. I was really let down by the launch event for this bike. It seemed a bit formulaic and kind of soulless. But since getting a close-up look at the bike, I was kind of oogling over the bike. I've been really interested in this bike and getting a ride on it. Because they've really looked at adventure bikes and heritage bikes and scrambler bikes, and they went down the list and they said, this is the best the best of all those sectors combined into one. You got steel braided cables, you got big 21-inch wheel, you got inverted forks, you got dual disc 4 caliber Brembos, I think it's 4 caliber, you got Öhlins shocks, you got a proper swing arm, you got a seamless tank. It's not one of those stamped tanks, so they really went out, spent some money on these tanks. I even like this kind of unnecessary metal aluminum strap to keep the tank down. I'm not really sure. I guess if they're thinking, if you're gonna bring it off-road, you don't want to find the bolts to get underneath it and fix it. Ooh, wow, interesting. It's a gas guzzler, ladies and gentlemen. I had 4 bars, I don't know if you can see it, I can barely see it myself on this display, but I had 4 bars of fuel, maybe 10 miles ago, and now I'm down to 2 bars of fuel, and I have the fuel light on, and I have a new thing on the display that says I have a 40-mile range before I have to refuel. I'm behind this big truck. There's lots of turbulence coming off of it. This lorry's sending some turbulence. There's another truck up above it. So I am getting quite a bit of turbulence, and I am very stable. I'm high up. It's a high bike. One of the things in the brochure has a commanding presence, a commanding ride height. That just means it's tall. It's an odd riding bike. I'm almost so high on it, and it's such a horizontal line in the design from head tube or headlight back to the rear light, that you're almost kind of like, you're not on it. You're almost above it, which is a very weird sensation. It's a very weird sensation to be on this bike. It's a lot of power not to feel like you're on it. Throttle hand's getting tired with these vibrations. It's almost asleep. 65, 70 miles an hour. It's comfortable. It's comfortable at those speeds. I know it can go. You really hear it start, and like that dropped rear end and that raised the weight off of the front shocks, but it's almost like, kind of like its little brother in this Street Scrambler, where it doesn't really like to go, oh shit, oh no, sorry. I couldn't see the display, so I thought I only had 1 bar of fuel, but I have 2 still, that's okay. When I stop for fuel, I'm going to reposition this display and see if it tilted towards me has a better effect with visibility, but also how it changes the wind deflection. I'll tell you, there are some bikes where you ride and you feel cool riding it because of the rider geometry. That Street Scrambler I rode, the Bobber I rode, my Royal Enfield, the R9T, you have this geometry to it where you're feeling tough, or you're feeling sporty, or you feel something about your appearance and how you're presenting yourself to the world. This motorcycle doesn't give me any feeling. I'm riding it and I can control it, but it's kind of soulless, which sounds really weird. With all the styling and the noise and the power, it's a bit vanilla for all of the stuff it has going for it. You know, it's kind of like the high school quarterback. The high school quarterback, you know, he's on the honor society, he's student class president, he won the big game at homecoming, but you get him alone in a room, there's really nothing behind it. He's a smile and a handshake. This seems like the smile and a handshake. This vibration in my right hand is really pissing me off. And my ass is completely asleep. I'm gonna step off this giant bike, I'm gonna step off this high bike, and I'm gonna fall flat on my numb ass because I have no glutes anymore left to hold up the rest of my fat self. That right exhaust pipe vibrating against my knee when I'm trying to clamp the tank is really, really off-putting. It's almost like I'm having some sort of spasm in my leg. I really gotta reach for that clutch lever. All right, first red light. Ooh, that's tall. Even with my leg up on that side, that bike leans that much if I'm gonna be straight-legged and flat foot. So straight-legged and flat foot, the bike's leaning really far over, and it's actually quite heavy. It's top heavy. Ooh, I'm just gonna pop a couple of liters in here. How do I turn it off? I went for the key. There's no key. It's keyless. All right. I power it off. Now this looks like a Monza cap, but then inside there's a plastic keyed cap. So I gotta find the key. Oh, this is interesting. All right. Found the key, everybody. Keyless. Oh, it's like a Volkswagen. Okay, flip that. Nope. Turn and twist, right? Threaded. Turn and twist. How the f*** do you get this thing off? There you go. Turn and twist. So yeah, it's just plastic under this kind of Monza cap, and it comes away all the way. What do I do? I'm going to lose the key and the cap. I don't like that there. Alright. That's annoying. Okay. Spin that back on. Lock it. Clip that. This is the keyed steering lock, so there is still a spot for the key for the steering lock. It is a good looking bike. Just I wish I felt it was that good looking when I was on it. Okay, so I'm gonna, how do I do this? Oh, he makes it look so easy. Oh, Jesus, there's no, I saw him grab that, but you can do it on the fly. Just pull it. All right, well, that's good to know. turn the key on by pushing the triumph symbol. It's come on there. Put it in neutral. Alright, so the bike's on. Now I can hide the key away somewhere. It's kind of annoying that you have to hide the key somewhere. Yep. Kind of getting used to the height now. Clutch in. Fire it up. Here we go. Alright, so I've gone 10 miles an hour. I wonder what it has to do to register that I've put fuel in it. Still got 2 bars. 20 miles an hour, 27 miles an hour, second gear, third gear. Still showing I need fuel. It's not really registering the fact that I've just put about 10 liters of fuel in there. That's odd. Oh, there we are. I've got 3 bars of fuel now. It's not I don't think it's registering all the fuel I put in it. It's got 3 bars of fuel now, and the light has gone off. It probably was cruising in 3rd gear for a good while before the computer recognized that I had fuel. Now I don't think it recognizes all the fuel I put in there, so keep an eye on that. Let's see. So standing up feels very natural. My elbows have a bit of a bend in them. The handlebars come up to me. I'm not really able, the squared off stylized tank at the top makes it really hard for me to grip it with my knees, and that high exhaust is making it hard because I can't get the right side of the tank with my knee, and I'm really pinned against that high exhaust, and it's not comfortable. I can control the bike with its pegs, which is a testament to the balance of it. The inside of my right calf is really hurting from all the scramblers I'm riding. Hard shelled knee-high boots are the order of the day on this thing. I don't know a lot of gravel. Balance is really nice on this stuff. It's actually performing a lot better than the Street Scrambler did. That's really cool. You definitely feel its height when you're on the soft stuff. It's funny, the ABS is on, but I'm able to kind of get a little bit of a skid on that gravel even at the slow speeds. I think that's where it lives, ladies and gentlemen. If you're looking for a sport tourer, or an adventure-styled sport tourer, don't buy this thing. But if you're looking for proper green laner off-roader, that wasn't proper green laning off-roading, so keep that to yourself. But I really liked it on the loose stuff. Single track road with passing places, that's where I want to go. Moo. The right leg against that exhaust sucks. I do like this engine better than the 900. If they made this Scrambler, the Street Scrambler with a 1200 and 6 gears, that would be ideal. And maybe that's what this is all about. It's starting to come into its own a little bit. kind of riding it a bit sloppier, if you will. Kind of hitting that accelerator a little less smooth, really shifting my weight across the bike. That flat seat, even though it's hard as shit, is good for fore and aft movements, side to side. Oh, I have to say, I've adjusted that display up, and it's working a treat. I haven't been out on the highway yet, but I can see it, which is awesome. This assisted clutch thing makes it really hard to engine brake, which means I'm relying more on my brakes than usual. I'm gonna be naughty. Oh, look everybody.
You know, you didn't bring it off-road, so how are you gonna know how good it is off-road?
There you go. That was actually quite fun. I'm going to go back and do some more of that. Wow, this long travel suspension is really working it. I'm coming around. I'm coming around to this bike. The Clump. The road's called The Clump. Oh, I love British roads. Hell, look, I got more fuel, everyone. I have now 4 bars. You gotta love electronics. It gives you a sense of the filtering. I'm not down in the city, but I am on these narrow town roads, and it shows you how narrow we can get on this. The balance is quite nice. I really don't like the feeling of that right leg against that exhaust. It's not too heavy to roll, even up this hill backwards. I don't think that's a public road, so I'm going to be respectful and not go down it. But it gives me a notion of what this is like to move around if I get caught on the trail or somewhere I need to move it around. It's not too heavy, as I say, out of breath. I gotta catch my breath. I'd be stuck on a bigger bike. That guy was on a CB 500X, orange, 2018, sweet spot for that bike. Oh, just engage the ABS a little bit. Oh, look at this. This is a dangerous spot to be in. That guy could get a little closer. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think all in all, they've done what they set out to do with this bike. It ticks all the boxes. There's a couple of things I do not like about it. I don't think this is not the ideal bike for me, but it does what it does very well. I don't think I'm gonna like, oh my God, stole that and now notice the weight. Wow, I was really quite confident in that, and that long clutch lever popped away from me. Maybe I'm getting a little fatigued. That long clutch lever popped away from me and stalled the bike, and then I felt the full weight and height of that bike come down on me. Whoa. So again, I think what I was saying was true. This is not the ideal bike for me. It does what it does well, but it's not gonna be in the fleet, I don't think. Though it does go off-road quite nicely. Maybe I'll get one for the States and ride it on the farm. I think where you had lots of gravel roads, lots of green laning, you had the option to use this bike the way it's meant to be used. You'd probably really enjoy it. I think it'd probably be too much. It's probably too much bike for our British roads. It just feels unwieldy unless you're on that gravelly stuff that I just came off of. On that, it comes alive. Oop, wrong gear. Sound like a helicopter in the wrong gear. So yeah, they're successful in making what they set out to make, and it's not offensive in any respect. It's actually quite a cool bike, but I think it's an impractical bike for a lot of people. I'm not going to be surprised at how many I see riding around London, but this is not a London bike. This is not a city bike, and my right calf is so f***ing angry at me right now.
If you like that video and you want to see more like them, hit like, share, and subscribe.